Ladies and gentlemen, it's The Franklin Show, live from Franklin, with America's favorite adopted pup, Franklin Delano Roosevelt Lloyd Wright Sinatra Seltzer, and, of course, his friend and favorite Franklin dog adopter, Michael Seltzer. I'm your announcer, Jim Hampton, a guy who worked in radio once in a while when it was still secure enough to last a couple of weeks at a job. Although I know I'm being fired from this one. And now, here's Franklin.
Well, welcome to the Franklin Show, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you to my great band. What a great audience. Franklin and I are so happy to be here in studio with our tattoos. Here's my Franklin tattoo right here. And here's my other boy, Winston, right here. We're all together, and we're excited to bring you another exciting and entertaining edition of The Franklin Show. You stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
We said we'd never break the 3-second rule. Never do that. And never become a minivan mom.
Hey, Chris.
As parents, we say never a lot, but never happens. So when you say you'd never leave your child in a hot car, know it can happen. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
Okay, folks, welcome back to the Franklin Show. Franklin and I are here with a very special show and a very special guest as we look at the illustrious and effervescent career of a legend in broadcasting, if I do say so myself, whether he agrees or not. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Hampton. Now, do you like to be called Jim or Jimmy?
Jim works for me, yeah.
Okay, all right. So,
Jimmy was what my mother used to call me when I was bad.
you were in trouble, right? I get that. So we're doing a kind of an interesting show today. I'm doing a show, as I love to do, about broadcasting, because that's one of my favorite topics. And I'm starting with you because of your illustrious and long-standing legendary background. And then I'm moving on to a member of the newer generation of future broadcast legends. And we'll talk to her. Emily Brooke is her name. She's been on Mojo in the Morning here in Detroit radio. And with Ryan Seacrest out in California on KISS FM. So she's one of the new legends, I think. But in any event, let's start at the beginning, sir, with your background going back into the 60s. Where did it all begin for Jim Hampton?
Well, you know, when I was a kid, a teenager, I wanted to be in radio, and I used to practice in my bedroom on my Bogan amplifier with speakers and a little woolen sack recorder. And there were friends in my in high school, actually, that also wanted to be in radio, one of which was Warren Pierce, you know the name. And he used to come over, and we would practice doing radio and stuff like that. But I got my first chance at really doing radio at a little station in Ypsilanti, which was called WYSI. And it was a top 40 station, and there was, you know, cows in the pasture right behind us. And it was really, really rustic. And thanks to John Dew, who was at WXYZ as a producer, he got me that job. And he also got me introduced to WXYZ at a very early age. I had just gotten my driver's license, and I was hired during the week to be the producer, you know, the guy that ran the records and commercials for all the talent that was there. What an amazing time. I mean, you know, Lee Allen and Joel Sebastian and Dave Prince and Paul Winter and Fred Wolf, all those guys I used to spin records for. So I learned a lot from them. And that was sort of my dream to get started. And, you know, I really needed much more experience. So I went up to Flint, thanks to Warren Pierce, who introduced me to the program director at WTRX, and did the nighttime show in Flint radio. So that was the beginning of it all. You know, I really wanted to come back to XYZ as a disc jockey, and I thought that I had gotten a job as the all-night guy when I was at WTRX. So I quit my job in Flint and went down to Detroit and discovered, oh, no, I'm sorry, but we did not give you that job. And so then I was heartbroken and also out of work, because then Larry Morrow, if you remember, the Duke Windsor, he replaced me up at WTRX in Flint. And it's funny because all these names, all these people that have become something were swirling around when I was out there doing my thing. Anyway, I went to Jackson because that's where I got a job at WKHM, working for NOR Broadcasting, and then I couldn't. I just didn't like being in Jackson. It was a great city, but I was driving from Detroit. I just couldn't keep it up, and so I got a job.
By the way, using NOR Broadcasting, for those who don't remember or know, that was Keener 13.
Yeah.
That was the NOR family, Fred and Nellie, and this unbelievable, groundbreaking WKNR Keener 13 that broke all kinds of crazy radio records. That was the sister station that they held, and you were there.
Yeah, they were really wonderful to work for. Just, there was no pressure. It was just to go do your thing and be good and behave. And so I did that, and I learned a lot, and then went up to work in Flint for Jerry Jacob at wonderful Wham. And there was the afternoon guy and the music director. Loved that job. I mean, it was so much fun, and I got to be involved in selecting music, and I'd see all these record promoters who would come up to Flint because they needed, help in Detroit, so they needed Flint as a backup. Yeah. And I met Barry Gordy. He used to come up and promote things. Stevie Wonder would come up and actually co-DJ with me a couple of times. Awesome. It was really terrific. In fact, I still have a tape of the Stevie Wonder thing. It's just brings back so many great memories. But then I finally got the call. Lee Allen became the program director of WXYZ, and he said, "Come on down. I've got a job for you." And so I became the all-night guy. And I was scared to death, because not so much of the job, but because I was still trying to figure out what was going to happen to me in the Army. This was during Vietnam, and I was trying everything to get into a reserve unit. And and Jerry Jacob, the manager, he was calling around. The only one available was the Marines. So I thought, no, maybe I'll take my chances and keep trying somewhere else. And so I called the Flint Reserve Unit, and I said, I'm checking to see about getting in. And I was told I might have a chance. And they said, no, nothing new, nothing here. So I was panicked, and I had just gotten the job in my, at XYZ. And so I literally walked over to this reserve unit, and I went in and said, well, Sergeant Major Lee told me to come over because he's going to sign me up. And she said, really? Okay, well, let me get Sergeant Major Lee. And I thought, oh my God, I am really cooked here. And he walked out and he said, Hampton. Okay, come on in. And he signed me up. And it was just the best thing ever. And that saved me, and that allowed me to go to XYZ.
Thank you, sir, for your service. That's a great guideline, really. I
was actually in this wonderful broadcast unit with all kinds of people like Dick Crockett and I forget all the names, but there were a lot of Jim Jeffries from Keener, Bob Hart from ABC, and we would go to places like Panama, and we went to Korea. It was fun, actually. We're on the radio for Armed Forces.
Wow, that's exciting. Who knew? I'm grateful to you for sharing that. That's a great story. But so you had this opportunity to join your cherished WXYZ with all of those great talents, but then you had to forego that to do your civic duty. That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I was praying that they wouldn't call me to go up. They were very backlogged in those days, so the going to basic training was you're on a list. And so I was at XYZ for, maybe not quite a year. and all of a sudden get this notice saying, well, we're going off to basic training in Fort Leonard Wood. So I was devastated, of course, and left. And right after that is when they changed the format to The Good Life. And they brought in Martin and Howard and Johnny Randall, who I helped get a job at XYZ. He took over my show.
Martin and Howard, we're talking about Specs Howard.
Yeah, Specs Howard and Harry Martin.
And, right, but Specs, of course, legendary, the broadcast school that was so helpful to so many people who wanted to break into showbiz, thanks to Specs and to Dick Kernan of blessed memory. So
Okay. Yeah, Dick was one of my very, very best friends. He followed my career. He was at XYZ when I was there, and then of course he went on to work with Specs. Right. So, but anyway, I was now back at XYZ because they had to give me my 6 months that you get after you leave, into the Army. And I worked with Joe Barbarella, and he put me on the FM at that time to replace Bob Lane, or Sebastian, I his name there. And so I did that, and and I helped a lot in the programming area, and unfortunately
the FM, which became RIF, WRIF.
Right. Yeah, the WRIF.
So you preceded RIF, and you were probably on the air with a young Art Penhallow, right? He was doing beautiful music on WXYZ FM before they transitioned to RIF.
I don't know. No, he wasn't when I was there. He may have actually replaced me when I left. Okay. But I'm not sure. I never met him.
Got his start.
Certainly know of him. He's amazing.
Yeah.
So now it's I'm actually after I left XYZ, I didn't really have a job, so I went to work with Lee Allen at the Lee Allen School of Broadcasting, which later became Specs Howard School. Specs bought it from Lee, and I was, we're just hanging out. I was trying to do sales and help him with different things, and in lieu of having a real job. And then in my Army Reserve unit, I told you I met Dick Crockett, who was at ABX at the time.
Yeah.
He said, "Hey, you gotta come over to ABX. We need some people here." I said, "Okay." So I went over, and he introduced me to John Detz, and they hired me to do afternoons on WABX when they had just started the Underground album, and I didn't fit in at all. I mean, I was very corporate, used to working at the ABC and all these stations, and I also had very short hair, even not as short as I have now, but it was very short. And because I was
you probably didn't fit in with the likes of Jerry Goodwin and Dave Dixon and Dan Carlisle and Mark Perrano and Larry Miller. I mean, those were some amazing, amazing talents. And that freeform radio station, one of the best ever, ABX, man. That was a great era.
I mean, I guess they took some sides thinking I was the Antichrist or something, but I became very good friends with Larry Miller, of course, Dick Crockett, Danny Carlisle were still great friends. Right. Jerry Lubin, we got along fine. Dave Dixon was rough for me, but I didn't care. And then ABX one day fired me, saying, well, they want to give Larry Miller the spot, I guess. So I was angry about the way they did it. And so I drove to Chicago, and I met with Howard Grafman, who owns Century Broadcasting. And I said, Howard, this is what they're doing, and this station has so much potential, and we could make money with this thing, and they're just throwing it away. And he said, well, I'm going to make you the co-manager and sales manager of WABX. And he called John Detz and asked and told him what he was doing. And I came back in there kind of, like, oh my God, they're going to really hate me now. But I focused on setting up a sales department for them because I had been getting phone calls from these big agencies saying, hey, we love your station. And so I thought, well, maybe they'll put some money here. So I hired Jim Ear and Richard Golden
I was going to say, I'm assuming you had an opportunity to work with the legendary DOC legend, Richard Golden, who was an amazing.
They were terrific. I gave them a huge commission and a little tiny salary, and they went out and they made so much money. It was incredible. But I didn't really want to work there. I just didn't want to be fired. So when I had the opportunity to go to WJBK, I just jumped at it, because JBK was going top 40, and I just thought, wow, this is back to my roots, I guess. So I left.
And who was on JBK? Who was with you?
Oh my God. There was, Lee Baby Sims ended up in the mornings. I think after Mark Avery was there. K.O. Bailey was on in the afternoons. Tommy Shannon ultimately replaced him. I knew Tommy really well there. Conrad Patrick and Tommy Dean was on at night, and then me doing the all-night show. It was a great staff. The timing was So I got a call from Joe Baccarella when I was working there. I actually the afternoon opened up. Well, no, before that, I got a call from Baccarella, and he said, "Do you think you could, hook me up with Tom Shannon? We're thinking about, maybe he might come here at XYZ." And I said, "Sure." So I set up a meeting with the two of them, and then Tommy went over to XYZ, and I got his show on JBK in the afternoon, which lasted maybe 2 weeks, and then they went country. So, and Dick Kernan, of course, says, "Well, Hampton, you are, I don't know, you have like a curse hanging over your head."
Yeah.
But that was still great. And then I didn't know what I was going to do, but I kept hearing about this guy named Ken Draper, who, of course, I knew WCFL. I tried to get a job there, and he had taken over WCAR, and it was really sounding, pretty good. Dave Prince was there. So I thought, I need to meet this guy. And so I found out he was going to be in Atlanta, and I flew down there and searched him out, and we had breakfast, and he hired me to work at CAR. And I thought, I was going to be a DJ or something. But he said, "You know what? I really need like a creative director. I need someone who can handle the image of the station." I said, "Really?" I mean, I had done a lot of production, for me, but I hadn't really, thought about it. And so I took on that task and really re-imaged that whole station. PSAs became like records over there. We would create them like they were mini movies, because I hated, the old traditional buckle up for safety kind of message. Instead, we would create a whole thing around it. And, it was really
legendary call letters. I mean, what a great call letters for Detroit, WCAR. That was Hy Levinson, right? He was the owner.
Yeah. Yeah. And I worked on these PSAs, and I came up with a stinger, called, WCAR cares about Detroit and its people.
WCAR cares about Detroit and its people.
Bases are loaded. Johnny's up to bat. He hits it to center field. It's a high fly ball. Bobby's after it. He's going back past the fire hydrant, past the oak tree, right between two parked cars onto the street. He got it.
WCAR cares about Detroit and its people.
Or WCAR cares about you. And those were on the end of every public service announcement. So that was sort of a way to kind of build up the brand of the station. It was a great station, but, it just had no chance of really becoming that great. Hy Levinson was hysterical to work for. Everybody hated him, but he liked me. He really liked me. He used to send me notes saying, "My dear Jim,"
really? Wow.
And he'd say, "What about this?" And then he'd write some little hand note about an idea and he had. And when I called him up to tell him I was leaving to go to WLS, he said, "I'm so sorry you're leaving us," which he never says to anybody. I mean, CAR was famous before Draper of hiring somebody, and then the guy would show up from off the plane from some faraway city, and they'd say, "Well, we're sorry, we decided not to hire you after all." They were horrible. And that was Hy Levinson.
I can't imagine.
So, yeah.
All right. So then after WCAR, what was the next step?
Well, I got a call from a friend of mine who was the news director of WLS saying that Mike McCormick was looking for someone to do operations, production, maybe some fill-in. And I remembered Mike because he wanted to hire me at KQV in Pittsburgh, and I just couldn't see leaving Detroit for Pittsburgh. So I went there for the weekend, and it was a rainy weekend, or going to be in Chicago, and we were at his house, and he had this giant mound of sod ready to lay down, and he was freaking out because it was going to rain and ruin the sod. And so he and Phil and Phil's wife and me and my wife decided we'd help, and we started laying sod on Mike's lawn. And that was sort of my introduction to getting to know him. So afterwards, we had drink and dinner, and he said, "Hey, Jim, I want you to come here and work at WLS." And I said, "Wow, okay." So I did, and it was a great period. And over there, I sort of brought my the PSAs and that kind of thing to LS. WLS says a lot for Chicago. All that kind of stuff happened in that period. And it really, I found it was really gratifying because I would hear those same things, those same PSAs on stations, their version of it, on stations all over the country, because the LS had such power that they were very influential in the way.
Well, and being in Chicago, and then you landed in the ABC radio network, where you produced thousands of great, entertaining specials for ABC, including the John Lennon story, the Bob Seger story, the Beach Boys, the Eagles, Michael Jackson. I mean, those are some amazing documentaries that you created. That was
it was. I was working by that time. I was working in LA, and I was working. I'd been with Ken Draper. He brought me back to LA in syndication. But his company went out of business, and I picked up from where he left off. And so I had this little company, and I was producing these shows for ABC and RKO, and also the BBC, and all these different networks. And I had a chance to, especially with the ABC connection, I had a chance to get interviews with all these amazing people. I don't think there's anybody except for McCartney and Streisand and a couple others that I didn't record, back in the day. And so much so that
you've been out west ever since. Yeah.
Yeah. I moved out here in 71. So that's a lot. I mean, there are babies born long after that.
Well, I mean, when you look at your career in the 60s, where you were bouncing around from station to station, a lot of Detroit properties, a lot of great stories, but the 70s, you blew up. And you've been out on the West Coast ever since, and you've got the Greenhouse Marketing Group, and you're still active. I saw you just a couple of months ago at a 80th birthday party for a mutual friend of ours, and you look fantastic. You've got great energy, and you sound great. So, I mean, it's been quite a ride, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it's, when people ask me, well, what do you do? And I go, I don't know where to begin. I've done so many things. I've always been one who, if I saw an opportunity, I would go and grab it. It didn't matter whether they thought of me as a DJ or a producer or whatever. I would always be trying something new. Although I have to tell you, I missed being on the air. And so I started doing some on the air in syndication, actually, by creating some programs that were heard in Japan and China. Japan was a huge market for me. I made tons of money, and they wanted programming that sounded like America, sounded like California, and so I delivered these shows. One was called the LA Express, which was heard every night on FM Yokohama, and sponsored by different people. And then China opened up, and I went over there for their first convention where, East meets West, which was really quite something. In fact, Tom Rounds and I were over there. Tom, who was at Watermark and had created American Top 40 and other shows. And so I, with the help of a company that was over in China, I launched the Chinese version of the LA Express and became the Music World Express. And that was on the Shanghai radio network, which covered all of the rim of China and all these cities. And I would get letters and pictures from all these people listening to the show. Hi, I listen to you every day, and I learn English from your show. And would you ask Michael Jackson the next time you talk to him about this question?
Today on the Music World Express, you'll hear the biggest songs in America and around the world.
I'll have a report on which music artists are hot on the Music World beat. Plus, we'll hear #1 songs from the UK, West Germany, Australia, and from the dance floors of America.
It's all happening on the Music World Express, brought to you by your Coca-Cola bottlers. This is Jim Hampton.
And I'm Joni Carroll on Magic C78 FM.
Let's begin with 23-year-old British singing star Rick Astley. He's just about everyone's favorite.
It was. I still have them. I still keep these things. I have them. They're pretty amazing.
Well, just want to tell you that it's just an honor to know you and to include you on the Franklin Show and your illustrious award-winning career. And what a broadcasting legend you are, Jim Hampton. I appreciate you taking the time and coming out to tell your great stories. There's a lot of nostalgia in there for those of us who grew up in the broadcast world in Detroit. Some great, great names and personalities that you'd been associated with. But you've certainly made your mark in broadcasting. And I am grateful. And my hat's off to you, sir. So.
Well, thank you. It's one great thing before we go, and that is I want to plug something we're doing. Jim Feliciano and I have a website called usaradiomuseum.com, and people go there. They can see all the stories and the history of radio, and it's a great rich site with lots of learning in it, lots of air checks, videos. It's filled. I've done interviews with some of the greats. And the other thing, if they want to hear me still on the Almost Radio, I call it. I'm on Real Old Music Radio, which is a website out of Grand Rapids that broadcasts through the country. And I do my radio recall shows there on Monday and Tuesday and Thursday and Friday. And I have a Sinatra show now, too. So I'm just getting rid of all this DJ stuff just to put it out there,
No, it's
so
great.
Michael, thank you very much for letting me talk. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and Jim Feliciano was the one who said to me, you need to get Jim on your show. And he's a great guy and a regular member of our monthly lunches. And so, yes, we will get that website up on the screen. People can go and find more archival treasures on the Motor City. What's it called? Motor City?
No, it used to be Motor City Radio Flashbacks, and we moved it to my survey. It's called usaradiomuseum.com.
You got it. Yep. That will be up there on the website too. So, all right. Thanks, Jim. Great to see you, man. Appreciate you. Enjoy your year in the new year out in Palm Springs, and hope to catch up with you again soon. Thanks for being here.
Thanks a lot.
Folks,
see you on the radio.
We'll be right back. Stand by for more riveting entertainment right here on the Franklin Show with Frank and I.
Yeah, I know. Wait, I don't know. Yeah, you just did that. Look at that. It's so sad. It's here, put that over there. Put that over there.
Okay, folks, welcome back to the Franklin Show. Franklin and I are doing a wonderful broadcast today in which we are covering broadcast legends from the past and what I consider to be a future broadcast legend. Wow. The young lady sitting next to me on screen is Emily, and Emily has had an illustrious decade career at this point, I would say, if I may. an iHeart career starting out in, did you start out in Detroit, Emily?
Yes. Technically, I interned in Lansing while I was in college.
Yeah.
So that was like the first like real radio station that I got my hands into. But yeah, I started out my on-air career and most of my career in Detroit.
Okay. So you started out and you were on, you started out as a member of the Mojo team, Mojo in the Morning. Was that the first break for you?
Kind of. So we can go back a little further. So
Go. Start from the
yeah,
start.
so I started as, well, yes, I started as a Mojo intern when I was still in college. So I was going to Michigan State at the time. And what I thought was actually just going to get me an internship at SiriusXM, which I was dying to have. I was obsessed at the time. They had Cosmo Radio, which was literally Cosmo magazine, but on the radio. And I literally was obsessed.
Fashion, lifestyle, beauty, social media, careers. If it's written about in the pages of Cosmo and happening in your life, we're talking about it. We're going inside Cosmo.
So I applied for that internship. They said, get some more major market experience and try again next year. So I was like, okay, let me go and see if I can get on the morning show that I grew up listening to every day.
Right.
It was Mojo in the Morning. And what I thought was going to be like a 1-month stint to put on my resume turned into like a 13-year career with iHeart, which was crazy. That's how it felt sometimes. A lot of, moving parts, things going in different directions. But yeah, that's how it started. So I started as an intern with Mojo in the Morning. I did that for basically my entire senior year. So I was driving back and forth between East Lansing and Farmington Hills my entire senior year of college, which was actually really fun. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I was just talking to a friend of mine. I'm not a morning person, ironically. But I vividly remember being excited every single morning to wake up at like 3 a.m. to drive in and go into Mojo in the Morning, just because it was something I was so excited to be doing. So that's kind of where I started.
That's a hell of a start. I mean,
yeah, it was a pretty cool start.
This guy Mojo has just he's a broadcast legend.
And Hall of Famer.
Has had an incredible run. I was just with him recently at an event, and I hope to have him on the show. But I mean, what an incredible talent. And to be part of that at the beginning of your career, that's amazing stuff. Man.
It taught me truly like the foundations of everything that I do, like still to this day. Yeah. And it did get me an internship at SiriusXM. So I stayed with Mojo for like a year, went to Sirius for a summer, and then ended up coming back home to Michigan and fell into the promotions team for the entire iHeart cluster. So different stations, got to help out with Mojo stuff as well, but got to work on all 6 stations in Michigan. And from there, I basically like banged down Mojo's door and was like, please let me do something else. Like, I'm losing the skills that I learned because I did that for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm losing everything. Like, I can't do this forever. Like, I need to grow. And so he's like, okay, well, I'll let you learn the board from me. Like, on your own time, you can come sit in with our show and just watch and see what you can do. Maybe you can be a board op. So I did that for a few months. And then I was like, okay, need something else. Like, I think I got this. And so he basically sat me down and he told me, he looked me dead in the eye and he was like, I think you need to hear this, but you need to make an air check. And I don't think you're going to do it unless I tell you that I don't think you're going to do it. So he used a little reverse psychology on me to get me to make an air check, my very first air check. And that first air check, people always say, right? Like your timing is everything and like you're preparing for your moment. And I guess like all of the years that I was like doing these odd roles in radio really did prepare me because I did one air check and they put me on like a weekend shift on KQI. So yeah. So from there, I kind of went up.
You went to Washington for a while too, or were you voice tracking there?
Yes, I lived in DC I did the night show there for 4 years.
Yeah,
so I did 10 days in Detroit after getting that weekend, like overnight weekend shift. Ended up getting middays, did that for 3 years in Detroit, which was very cool to be able to, follow up the show that I grew up listening to, and be on the same station as everyone. And then, from there, I was like, okay, again, I got that itch of like, I need to do more, I need to grow. So I went to DC. From there, that's when I started voice tracking a ton of different markets. At one time, I was doing probably like 16 in a day, which was crazy.
Wow.
Which also kind of changed my relationship with what I wanted to do in radio. After I guess voice tracking that many shows during COVID in my bedroom on a tablet with just like a change in the way that we kind of connected to an audience. And personally, it changed what radio felt like to me. It made me realize that just like being able to communicate more with the audience that was listening, or communicate with the people that I was creating with, was so important to me. So I did my night show for 4 years in DC, ended up deciding not to renew my contract. And there was actually a moment in there during COVID where my dad had a really sudden, and I don't know if you want our audience to know, but Michael and I are family members. So, you know, my dad.
I was going to get to that, but first I wanted to hear your story. So
yeah, we'll get there. But my dad had like this sudden, really, really basically like a heart emergency. I got a call from my mom, and basically like my dad had to have open heart surgery within like 2 weeks. And at the time I was like sitting in my bedroom, voice tracking for hours, really like not being social with people, like kind of just like in the zone. And it felt so like, I don't know, it just made me question, like, what am I doing? I could have missed something really big because I was sitting at home, like voice tracking a bunch of shows, like not connecting to anyone. And it made me like really, really just think about what I wanted, what my goals were, and like when am I going to act on them? Because like you don't have forever. And if you're sitting somewhere in a job that doesn't feel like it's a fit for you anymore, or in the way that you wanted to, it's up to you to act and to make it work, or else you're always going to be wondering what if. And so I decided in that moment I wasn't going to re-sign my contract in DC. My dream was always Kiss FM in LA. I was singing a lot at the time too. So I was like, all right, between music and radio, I'm going to go to LA and I'm going to make it work. And I don't know how, but it did. It really did.
First of all, let me interrupt you and say you are an old soul, and I so love you in your passion, and that you are so mature in what you've just described. Because we are family members, and your grandfather was so dear to me. My cousin Larry Sklar, who also had heart disease, and I loved him, love him, and your dad means a lot to me as well. And so to see you on this trajectory, and I was following you years ago as you were coming up in the business that I love, that I grew up in. I'm just so proud of your maturity. And that was what you just described, was an extremely old soul, mature response in a business that has just changed so dramatically. I mean, I grew up in the 60s and the 70s, and if you've seen some of my shows, the tributes I do to radio, because I love radio.
Yeah.
There's so much nostalgia and great history. It is not that same business today. But you, with your talent and your maturity, have propelled yourself. And I'm just so proud of you. I mean, to be a part of the Mojo in the Morning program for nearly a decade, iHeart is a major force in broadcasting. And to end up at Kiss FM with Ryan Seacrest, I mean, you've got something, girl, and it's working. So, all right, go ahead.
Well, I have to clarify, I was just an intern for Mojo. So I answered his phone. Okay. Never got to be like a staple in the chair, but that's enough. I learned infinite amounts of wisdom there. But thank you for saying all that too. And it means a lot. And it's sometimes it's like a really hard pill to swallow, that like the industry, because like, this was an industry that to me meant it's such a unique industry. Radio serves such a purpose that like you cannot find anywhere else. And it is hard to replicate, and it's hard to pivot. It's really, really hard to pivot. But that was my story when I moved to LA, pivoting kind of left and right and here and there. And it's strange because I feel like I'm still in this in between of, I took one path and then I pivoted last year to a different path. And, like, what does that mean in my heart and in my soul? And like, what do I genuinely want? So I'm still in a phase of like learning and exploring that.
Right.
But I wouldn't change anything.
All right,
Because
so talk about your current situation, Unwell,
Yes.
which is such an interesting name.
yes, for Unwell. Okay.
I have so many shirts that say my therapist gave up on me, and so on and so forth. But what is Unwell?
Yes. So Unwell is where I landed last year after working. I was doing weekends on Kiss FM because I kind of just showed up at Beata's door and was like, please, like, this is my dream. And she gave me a shot, and I forever am grateful for that.
While you're away, Emily will be on this weekend at Kiss FM. Emily, a new member to the Kiss staff. How are you, Emily?
Yes, welcome, Emily.
I'm so happy to be here. This has been a dream for so long. So just being in this room is crazy.
Wait, so we never get anyone new. How'd this happen? When did you, what, tell us how you got here.
So it's been a weird journey, but I was in DC and decided I was going to make the move to LA. And I've been with the company for about 12 years or so. And
here you are.
Yeah.
Let's hear you say the station.
102.7 Kiss FM.
How fun is that?
Yes.
That's my
Wild.
favorite part. I know. Even when I started, I was like, this is the coolest. I get to say this and people are out there.
Right?
So you've moved here. What's it been like to set up shop in LA for you, Emily?
Well, this has been a very interesting time because I hear that I came at the weirdest weather seasonal
right.
time
you came during all the
to be in
rain?
LA.
Yeah, this is not normal for us.
Yes. So experiencing a lot of rain. So I'm starting to see some sunshine, which is great as I'm starting to settle in. So the timing's been very interesting, but I love being here. It's just nice to see palm trees.
And Emily, you'll be on this weekend on Kiss. Are you also singing? Do you sing?
Yeah, I sing on the side. It's really fun.
That's cool.
A really good time at a karaoke bar. If you guys want to do karaoke.
What do you sing? Like, what kind of music do you sing?
Yeah,
and
but you're
what do you
probably
sing?
really good.
Right.
Yeah, we won't play anything or do anything if somebody's good.
Yeah, well, we want bad people at a karaoke bar.
We only play with bad people.
That's the one thing that's weird too, because if you go to karaoke and you're good, it's like kind of awkward.
But do you sing at Mastro's?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Wait,
a lot of pop.
Tell
Upstairs?
me more. How does this work?
Yeah, so they have live music. There's 2 levels too. So live music, there's a piano. I sing with someone else, and a lot of like top 40s pop music.
Should we make her sing?
Wait, let's all go.
Oh.
No. Let's make her sing. Better
Let's
idea.
make her sing.
Right now?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
Sing
host
something.
a singing competition.
Yeah, he does something like called
So
American
intro her.
Idol.
Give her an intro.
What,
yeah,
what do you give us a song? Pick us your favorite song.
What's your go-to? You don't have to do like 12 seconds. What's your go-to?
It's kind of like an older song, but I love Valerie by
Yeah.
Amy Winehouse.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. So welcome back to the show. Up next is Emily with Valerie. Emily, take it away.
Okay.
Well, sometimes I go out by myself and I look across the water and I think of all the things and what you're doing. In my head, I paint a picture.
She's good. So good. And you have like a little texture to your voice there. I can feel the pain. All right, Emily, she's going to be playing music, maybe singing her own this weekend
That's
on Kiss.
incredible. Good job. We should have had her sing Happy Birthday to me, actually.
Yeah, I got you.
I'm just kidding.
You have your own hour coming up next. You can do it till 11.
Yeah, I'll follow you in. We'll make something happen.
So Emily's got tickets to go see Ed Sheeran at SoFi Stadium September 23rd, and so does everybody over the weekend here on Kiss FM. Great to meet you. Welcome to Kiss. Look forward to hanging.
Welcome to the
Thanks for coming.
family.
Thank you guys so much.
All right, Emily.
But you can't obviously just show up in LA and expect to get a full-time job. So after a year and a half of being there, I was doing weekends there. I was doing fill shifts. I got to interview some really awesome artists. I actually started producing on the podcast team because that was a huge goal of mine, was to learn the podcast side of the industry and to kind of understand the nuances, the differences between radio and podcasts, kind of see where they align, see is this the future of audio? How different are they? And just kind of like learn what I don't know. So I did that for a little while as well and ended up finding a job at Unwell, which is Alex Cooper's company. She is the host of Call Her Daddy, influencer, businesswoman extraordinaire, been on the cover of Forbes. So again, another incredible learning opportunity to work for someone in a company that is very digitally driven, very Gen Z focused. So that's where I currently am. For the last year, it was a very interesting role. I was actually producing a daily radio show for SiriusXM, which very full circle moment. Yeah, I was getting that job and going back to Sirius and getting to walk those halls as, like someone that's producing there.
On which of their networks?
So it's Unwell Network. So
that's a Sirius XM channel.
Yes. So part of Alex's deal was that with SiriusXM was that there was an Unwell on air channel. And so for the last year, I was producing it was like dating, relationships, advice show with two talent who this was actually like their first time doing radio. So it was a really cool world to kind of, coach them and grow with them and also create something and create something new and different and kind of fuse what I knew with what they knew because they're experts in social media. And so it was a really fun experience and it taught me a lot. And yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, look anybody that decides to leave Detroit, for instance, to head to LA, you got to have something going for you. And I will give you credit for that. Your cousin Justin did the same thing. He 22 years ago, I think it was, left Detroit for LA, ends up at Capitol Records, ends up running Blue Note Records, the jazz label.
Yeah.
Not an easy thing, not an easy road, but once you've made it in LA, you've made it, and you're probably never going to leave. Your parents may not like that, but that's the reality of that life. If that's where you're going to be, that's where all the opportunity is. So
yeah, it's definitely different. And like I said, like the knowledge and just what you can learn. I feel like I learned stuff in a day that in my past maybe would have taken me months to learn.
Right. And are you still singing? Do you still do that?
Yes, actually just got a text message from two of my bandmates just now. So yeah, still singing. I think we're gonna write some music today.
All right, so we'll get some of that on the show and show some of your talent. You need to send me a few clips, and we'll get that on there too.
I want to ask you really quickly though, because we were touching on kind of like this industry that you love so much, and you have this show basically dedicated to this industry, and I want to know from you what radio means and why you care so much.
Well, because I grew up in that era, and as you've seen or as I've described, when I started my advertising agency business in my early 20s and became, a person who developed ad campaigns, we created radio magic, we created television magic, we created print, and I was able to make that into a career. And I grew so fond of the broadcast side of the business, developed all these friendships, forced my way into the lives of the icons that I grew up listening to. And to this day, I continue to be in touch with them. I had these Motor City radio reunions that I created back in the 80s with a few partners. And I just love the broadcast industry. So for me, it's just easy nostalgia to go back to. It's just so exciting. And I'm a big fan of the industry, the broadcast industry. And yeah, it's changed, but it's still alive. It's still vibrant. It's just different.
Yep.
And podcasting, which is what I'm doing, is just another tentacle of broadcasting, And so it's a vibrant way to communicate, and it'll always be something that is near and dear to me. So I just have great respect for the people that have been in the business, the great stories, the great history, and the future is the future. People like you and people like Mojo and his team and all the folks that are part of broadcast, the industry today, are still going at it. It's just a different. It's a different business today. Much more complicated. Your voice tracking during COVID is a great example. I mean, that was not a part of broadcasting. Every local radio station had local personalities and relationships with their audience. And today, people like you are able to take your talent and syndicate it elsewhere, for better or for worse. I mean,
Yes, definitely.
There are two sides to that story.
100%.
Emily Sklar, great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. This is so cool.
Congratulations to you in your exciting endeavors and being a part of Unwell. I will be following and looking and listening and learning from you. And I thank you for being here today. It's a pleasure.
Well, thank you. And thank you for having this platform and loving an industry that I've loved for so long, too.
Me too. Okay. All right, my dear. Good to see you. Take care of yourself.
Thank you. Tell your family hello.
Yeah. Folks, we'll be right back with more entertainment here on The Franklin Show.
Be right there. Wait. Use the shovel and bucket of water, remember? Drown, stir, drown, feel. Then make sure it's cool.
Where'd you learn that?
SmokeyBear.com. Brushed up on some tips before we left. Don't want to start a wildfire, right?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, folks. Welcome back to The Franklin Show. Franklin and I are here, and we're going back through the time machine back to 1975. And I was 1975. I was 20 years old when I met this gentleman. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend and his, Gary May. Hi, buddy.
Hey, everybody.
How are you?
Hi, Franklin.
Yes, sir. So I had just decided that I needed to get into this crazy business of marketing, advertising, broadcasting. I'd, grown up as a teenager and listening to all my favorite iconic broadcasters and following their careers. And then when I was 13 years old, a little TV station, WXON, Channel 62, Detroit, Walled Lake, Michigan, hit the airwaves. I befriended the ownership of that station, Aben Johnson, and I started writing press releases, and I started providing them lead lists of potential prospects for their advertising and marketing department. And I went to meet him when I was 15 years old, and he said, when you're done with school, come see me, and we'll see what we can do to help you get started. And I went to see him in 1975, and I had long hair, and I was a kid. And he thought, you're not going to be able to sell the stuff that we're selling here on Channel 62, which became Channel 20. So let me have my sales manager, Cliff Barish, of blessed memory, see if he can hook you up with somebody. And I was sitting in Cliff's office, and he said, there's a guy that just started an ad agency. His name is Gary May. I'm going to give him a call and set you up. And I came in and met with you, sir. And for whatever reason, you took a look at this young dude and thought, yeah, what the hell? Let's give him a shot. So I started working for you at your company, Diversified Media Incorporated, DMI. Yeah.
Yes.
And at the time, your partners were an attorney named Gary Goodfriend and a guy named Tom Riopel.
Correct.
And a guy named Joey Ryan.
Yep.
Of radio fame. And Joey had decided for whatever reason that he really couldn't be a partner in this firm anymore. And he needed the money more than anything else. So I was able to buy into the business after a short period of time, which was great. And so you and I sort of struck a friendship. You stood up for me in my wedding the next year. And I was out beating the bushes, being your sales guy. I mean, that was the origin.
I'm going to go out on a limb and try to remember, but I think the first big client you brought in was Stereoland.
No.
Wasn't it?
You had Stereoland.
Oh, did I? I thought that was you.
No.
Oh.
I brought in Shelf World, a guy named Roy Reinhardt. I brought in Leo Adler Dotson, Sid Brand.
Yep.
I brought in Worldwide Waterproofing, Larry Sinek, Ed Fagan. I brought in a lot of business in a very short period of time, but you had Stereoland, you had J.L. Marsh, which was a record company.
That was the big one.
And you and Tom had Detroit Audio Systems, Johnny Burns.
Yep.
And Bell
and Starlit TV.
No, that I think I brought in.
Did you have Starlit?
Starlit and Aquastar Pools.
Do you know that Starlit is still there?
No.
Yes, it is. I drove by it just a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
And every time I come down 9 Mile, I look to my left and there's the Starlit TV sign.
Yeah, and Aquastar Pools. And we hired one of our little friends to do get in a bikini and do a pool commercial. That was fun. And so, yeah, that was the origin. But you had this business. So when did you actually start Diversified Media?
It was it was 74.
So
And Tom,
just a year before I came.
Yeah, it was just a year before.
Yeah.
I had just finished at DRQ, and I went to EXL to run their sales department and manage their audio production for all their commercial work. And it was just running thin. It wasn't, the Sparks boys were very interesting characters. And
but when you were at DRQ,
I was a little oil and water mix.
When you were at DRQ, then was that Tom Mosier that was the general manager?
Mosier hired me. Yeah, Tommy Mosier hired me at DRQ.
He's out here. He's out here in Scottsdale.
Yeah, he's out there in Scottsdale. Well, and then every time when you talk to Ted Ferguson, Ted and I,
China Joe,
we have 1,000 stories.
Yeah,
none of them are things you want to talk about on the air, but they were a lot of fun times. And Joey was there.
Right.
And I worked with Bill Bailey, Tom Morgan.
Yeah.
It was just a great day. Bob Pittman, who eventually founded AOL, ran AOL.
MTV, right?
And MTV, yeah. Bobby Pittman, I had to pick him up at the airport and find him a hotel on 8 Mile Road to stay because he didn't have a place to live when he got to town. And I told him, I said, well, this 5 mile stretch is not safe. So if I can make a suggestion, I'm going to move you up around Northwestern.
Well, we had some fun
on Bob Pittman story.
We had some fun on 8 Mile Road because there was a little strip club called the Basin Street.
Yes.
And you had an account there, and we would go there and have lunch, and it was quite a lovely lunch.
Yeah, we used to tell people we went there for the food.
Yeah, right. Henry was the owner.
Yep.
And then there was the Playboy Club down the street at Northwestern.
That was on Greenfield, wasn't it? And the lodge.
Yeah.
Those are
the roaring 70s, man. They were fun years.
I used to kid the kids when they said, "Why don't we do Ancestry.com?" And I said, "I grew up in the 60s and 70s. I have no desire to find out who I'm related to." I'm just being honest. Being honest.
Right. Okay. Then in later years, you hooked up with another dear friend of ours, Joe Nune, and it was May Nune. You were an ad agency, yeah.
Right. And that's when we pulled. And it was more that you were moving on. We had hired Steve Goldsworthy.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, everybody wanted the talent, and so you wanted to go in one direction. Steve was going in another. Tom was moving to the March of Dimes.
Right.
And Nune was leaving Channel 7.
Right.
Or WXYZ Radio. And he wanted to do something. And I'd literally been, having a cocktail at a bar with some people and met the woman who was running advertising at Hudson's when Hudson's was big. And they were looking for a small group to come in and help coordinate some production for them. And they hired Joe and I, and we went in and created a couple of big themes for them. And that kind of what launched May Nune.
And Joe is just a hilarious guy, and we're friends to this day. And he joined.
He's still the funniest person he knows. You know that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he also tells incredible stories that never end. And each time when we get together on our monthly lunches, when I'm in Detroit, I say, so pick up where we left off at the last lunch because we have to finish that story.
And he can remember that.
Yes,
He'll remember that story.
Yes, he can.
Yeah.
All right. So after May Nune, you became a producer. You were doing a lot of production at Channel 7, as I recall.
Yeah.
So
I kind of I went the independent way after Joe and I split. Joe had a great opportunity to do something that was completely unrelated to what we were doing. And at that time, I had befriended a few people at Channel 7 that I knew from the production side of stuff we were doing. And I ended up at that point, Tom, our partner, Tom Ripel, was at the March of Dimes, called me in, said, I've got this idea. And we developed that idea into what was something called the National Athletic Awards. And we took it to Chrysler, and Chrysler sent us down the hall to Dodge and Ray Fisher and Charlie Kitts. And they said, yeah, we want to sponsor it. So we became the Dodge National Athletic Awards to benefit the March of Dimes. at the same time that was happening, they hired me to produce the charity previews. And I produced the first 10 charity previews for the auto show.
Wow.
So all that came together in the same 2 months. And it was really because of Tom and the March of Dimes that I got into that.
Yeah.
And we ran those shows for a long time. It was great. A lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, we had some great fun back in those days. And I always look back with pride on the origin of my career. And of course, I have to give you credit for giving a guy a shot. And we had a lot of fun. I learned a lot of things. And of course, I went in a totally different direction, got into publishing. But those 70s in broadcasting were the most fun you could ever have.
It was, and I think one of the things that's different, or I should say that I remember from then that makes it so difficult sometimes to watch young people nowadays and the new generations do what they do, is we could sit around all afternoon and come up with 1,000 ideas. And the funny thing was 950 of them worked.
Right.
That's because we could do anything. And nowadays, people come up with 1,000 ideas and none of them work because no one will pay for it.
Well, that's one part of it. It's also a much more complicated equation today.
Yeah.
Back when you and I were starting out, we could buy, it was very predictable. You put together a television commercial, you put it on Bill Bond's 11 o'clock news, you put it on Oprah Winfrey at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Good Morning America. You run a few spots on WXYZ, CKLW, WOMC, and you run an ad on the Sunday Detroit News and the Thursday Free Press, and that was a campaign.
Yeah.
And you got eyeballs, and you got response, and you sold product, and your clients were happy. Today, with podcasting and satellite radio and cable television, and I mean, it's just so convoluted. How do you find the audience? And I give people credit for being in the marketing business today and having any idea how to get to the audience.
I remember, and you probably remember that 47 years ago, in the world of ratings, there was an average quarter hour, and there was a cum listener or viewer.
Right.
Nowadays, there's no such thing as an average quarter hour. Everything's cum because it's all spontaneous.
Yeah.
Everything is instant. So you have millions of eyes out there, but you never know when they're going to be there.
Yeah.
So it's like throwing a dart at a little tiny balloon from 10 miles away and trying to hit it. You can't do it.
Right.
You just throw it out there and hope it works.
It's an amazing transformation, but people are still finding success and still finding their way forward. But.
Yeah, I agree. And I just want to say one thing, because your listeners hopefully will enjoy this, but during our interview 47 years ago, one of the things that I remember was I had to get up at one point, and I know this for a fact because I checked with Tom to make sure I was right. And I left the room for a second in my office, and I went down and I saw Tom. And he said, "How's the interview going?" And I said, "Tom, this is the first person I've met, younger than us, who's has convinced me that there's something called cocky confidence." I said, "I don't care what you say, but this young guy's got it. He's got some cocky confidence, and I think we need to hire him." And he said, "Well, if you want to go back and hire him." So we walked back in and we hired you.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad that worked out for us, because it did.
Yeah, it was great.
Yes, I was and still remain cocky and confident.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I also remember times where I would come in the office and you and Tom would be out on appointment, and our secretary, Foster.
Judy Caruso.
Well, there was Judy Caruso, but before that, there was a really beautiful young lady named something Foster, and I can't think of it right now. I know Howard, your friend Howard, the photographer, took pictures of her.
Yes. Yeah, Howard. Oh, geez.
Okay, but anyway, she said, Mike's in your office right now, and you walk into your office, because I didn't have one. I was working in a conference room, I think, and I had papers spread all over your desk, and you were like, "Get your shit and get out of here." But
the good old days.
Yeah, but I was busy signing up clients and making things happen.
Well, I do have one important question. Well, I'll start first with the one part and then part A.
Yeah.
How's Franklin?
He's great. He's sitting right here with his head on the table.
What's the latest? What's his update? How's he doing health-wise?
He is a miracle puppy. I'll tell
Okay.
you, he's been through some calamity in the last couple of months,
Yeah.
but he's so energized right now. It's actually shocking to us.
Good.
He has blown past all of the things they said might be potential down the road. He's doing great. Thank you for asking.
That's good. Well, I'm happy. And then part
I'm
A, part
gonna
1A
send
to
you
that.
a Franklin Show keychain. I'm
Uh-huh.
going to send that to you as a gift just
Oh.
for asking.
Nice.
Yeah.
My last question is more importantly is how's Lori? How's the family?
Everybody is great. Thank you so
Okay.
much. We've had a tumultuous couple of months with regard to Frank. But other than that, we went through a period where we made a big decision. We left Michigan. We sold our home after 30 years in Franklin Village. I stepped down as the political elected official that I've been for decades. And we're just free and easy and loving life here in Arizona. I'll be back in the summer. I will be back. We'll rent and catch up with friends in Michigan. But for the time being, I got no complaints.
Well, I'm only a couple of miles from your old house, so if you need a place to stay, come on by.
You betcha. I appreciate
We'll take good care of you.
All right.
That's
Gary,
good.
a pleasure to see you. Thank you for joining me. Great
Thank
history
you.
together, and all the best to you and yours. Your son is in California as well. Am I right?
Both of them. My oldest is in Camarillo,
Yeah.
and he works for the Landry Corp for Tillman Fertitta. And my youngest is in Hollywood.
Yeah.
He's doing music production.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So
And
a
of
quick
course, you know,
plug for
my son is in Hollywood too.
absolutely.
Yeah.
A quick plug for him, and that's darkstudios.com with an E, dark, D-A-R-K-E, studios.com.
Good one.
That's him.
All right.
He's
All
doing
right,
a lot
my
of
friend.
work for Nike and a bunch of other people. I don't know how they do it,
Yeah.
but it's
Thank
cool.
you
He does
for-
a lot of music stuff.
Thank you for joining me and catching up. I appreciate you, and I wish you all the best.
Well, we will catch up in person the next time you're in. Invite me to one of the buddies. I'll come back again.
You bet.
I just don't want to sit next to Joe.
No one does. We get him his own room. All right.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Take
Folks,
care.
we'll be right back with more entertainment on the Franklin Show.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this show as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. We love entertaining the masses, or even just a couple of people, whoever's here. Anyway, thanks for tuning into The Franklin Show, and we'll see you again next time, right here on The Franklin Show. Bye, everybody.